Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I'm an author, speaker, and success coach who helps women believe in themselves, build confidence, and take action. In 2009, my husband Ryan and I were laid off at the same time, and we moved to the Florida Keys without jobs, not knowing anyone, hardly any money, and we never even been here. But we made it. And now, not every day is sunshine and rainbows, but we're living our best lives. All along in our journey, I've always said that someday when we get our shit together, we will help others. So each week, my intent is to be relatable and bring you tactical tips, tools, share my learnings and stories that can help inspire or transform you wherever you are in your career or general life and make an impact. I strongly believe that if I can do it, you can do it too. So what's stopping you? Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I hope you are doing fabulously out there, if fabulously is a word. Today, I wanted to talk about something fun. I personally think manifestation and the law of attraction is a really fun concept, and I hope you do too, because obviously if you want things to manifest in your life, you need to be having a good time and feeling positive and have really great energy, right? It all goes together. So we're going to call this a really fun podcast, and I thought it would be really cool to share two things that ended up manifesting that I had written down and forgot about. And these shares are in conjunction with a book that I read. It was recommended to me from my friend Deborah Lupien, and it's called The Lotus and the Lily. And the author is Janet Conner. So this book is, and I'm reading her subtitles, I'm just taking this right off the book, is a 30-day soul program. So what I ended up doing was Deborah told me about this book, and she follows Janet. I don't, but I wanted to read the book. I was curious about it, so I ordered it on Amazon. And I ended up doing this book alongside of Deborah's meditation challenge books. And my niece Sienna and I talked about that in the previous podcast, episode 178. And then Deborah was on my podcast talking about the book and the meditation challenge, I believe 172 and 173. So anyhow, so this kind of all goes full circle. So during the Christmas season into the new year is the time frame that I was multitasking, actually, both of these books during my meditation practice every morning. And I was extremely disciplined about it. So the whole process took maybe like 45 minutes for me to read a chapter from each book and meditate and then journal. And it was really, really, really great. I actually kind of missed that. It was really worked for me. I loved it. And I haven't shared this with anyone yet. So this is actually kind of interesting to share on this podcast. So anyhow, so with Janet's book, I'm going to say, just for the record, for anyone out there, that this book is excellent. But I'm going to break it down in 3 levels in case you're someone that does buy the book. If you are brand new to spirituality or just starting your journey, this book moves really fast. So every day she is addressing like a different aspect of yourself and going through your own personal journey. So it moves really fast. So again, if you are new, just know that and give yourself grace and know that this may take you longer than the 30 days that she lays out. So just know that, like, take a deep breath, tackle one thing. You might have to circle back, and just know that. So you don't feel bad. You don't feel overwhelmed, because I do believe that if you're someone who is brand new to spirituality and doing the work on yourself, and you have a lot of things that you wish to change or evolve, it may be a lot for you. If you're someone like me who's been doing a lot of work for a very long time, you may see this book as just really great validation. And that's what I'm going to dive into today a little bit, is something in the book that Janet lays out really, really, really well. The best I've ever seen anyone lay it out. And it was just like really awesome and amazing validation. So that's what we're going to dive into with my story. If you're someone who's in the middle, who's kind of like, they understand a lot about spirituality and the universe and themselves, but they still have a lot of things to work through, this book is probably perfect for you. And because she covers everything, soup to nuts. And I really think that you would really, really benefit from this book. So again, take your time wherever you are in your journey, and no place is a bad place in your journey because we've all been there. Like I started at 0 and had to do a lot of work, and I'm always still doing work. It's not that I'm not, but I just think that sometimes when you end up reading something, you may go, okay, I already embody this, and that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with saying, I get this, I know this, I do this. I already embody it. So wherever you are in your journey, know that it's okay. So circling back to the book, I want to share with you 2 things that manifested for my husband and I that are just really kind of funny. And they're things that I had written down in my little gratitude journals. So in 2016, and these were things I wrote down I forgot about. So that's really, really important. In 2016, I wrote down that we have a big boat, a really big boat, because if you know anything about the Good Karma, it's a 24-foot boat. It's not a ginormous boat. It's Ryan only takes like 3 adults. And that was intentional when we bought the boat. That was the business model that we decided to create and create a niche for. So Ryan always wanted to have also a bigger boat. So I would write in my journal, thank you for our bigger boat. And I wrote it in 2016, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then the other thing that I found in my gratitude journals that I wrote was that we had a private chef. And I don't know where I got that idea. I do love to cook, but I don't love our kitchen. And I thought, I think my feeling was like, it'll be great someday to have people over and be able to have a private chef. So that's where it's really kind of interesting that both ended up manifesting, and in different ways than I probably originally had intended when I wrote them in my journal. So the larger boat ended up manifesting 2 years ago as one of Ryan's clients, who he had been taking fishing for quite a long time, decided that he wanted to purchase a larger boat and ask Ryan to run it for him. So we have, for the past 2 years, been managing a 39-foot Sea Hunter with triple engines, which is a beautiful boat. It's gorgeous. And I had completely forgot that I had actually written about wanting a larger boat in my journal and kind of wanting it for Ryan, so he had the opportunity to fish on it. What's really cool about this relationship is not only does Ryan really like the client, they get along really well, the client's a super nice guy, I do all the back end business things for this piece of our business and helping the client, but Ryan can use it if he needs to. It's actually part of what Ryan has to do is run the boat once in a while, because the client can't always use the boat. He doesn't live in the Keys. He lives in Miami. So Ryan has to run the boat so it stays like in good operating condition, right? So it's kind of funny how that manifested, that we end up having access to this large boat that we really don't have to pay for. It's the client's boat. So it's not really our responsibility in terms of managing it, but it's not our responsibility in terms of like financially managing it, which is really a win-win and has opened our eyes to the cost of having such a very large boat. And not only the cost, but it's a really big challenge to have such a really big boat, like getting it in and out of the water. And there's lots of factors I won't bore you with. But it's actually not an easy thing to have this really large boat. So it's very amazing to us how the universe delivered on something we desired. Ryan desired, really. I'm just kind of the co-creator with him. And it worked out in our favor because it's actually something we don't really want. So it's great that it's his boat and we help with the whole situation. So it's really cool how that worked out. But we put it out there. I put it out there on paper. Ryan would talk about it once in a while. I put it on the paper and we just left it open and we forgot about it. And here, 2016, so then in 2020, because it was before COVID, so let's say 3-4 years later, and yeah, it ended up happening. The other thing that I had written down was, again, the private chef, and what ended up happening there was my good friend Vanessa here in the Keys, she ended up going, hey, there's this guy named Chef Clark who delivers food and it's really good and he's a chef. And I was like, what? Sign me up. So it's a text service. It's super easy. The text comes out with his menu. It's like about 18 to 20 items every week that you pick from. It's extremely affordable. It gets delivered on Saturday mornings, so you have food for the week, and it's delicious. And so we actually kind of have a private chef. It's not originally maybe what I envisioned, but it's still a private chef and made my life easier and more fun, time saving again, right? So bigger picture, it just worked out in our favor and just ended up manifesting. Like I really didn't think that was something that was going to be possible until maybe someday we're at a certain income level. Right? And especially down here in the Keys, it's not like a dime a dozen. There's a million private chefs like around, and it's just not something you really hear about, right? So that ended up manifesting too. So when I think back about the whys and what were we really aiming for, it kind of brings me back to this book, The Lotus and the Lily. And what I want to read out of this book that's just really, really cool is actually taken from her welcome section, kind of like the introduction, is how she does this comparison chart of the law of attraction in one column versus the concept of the lotus and the lily in the other column. So in the law of attraction, and I'm going to go through each of these because they're really fascinating. And this is what I want you to think about. I want you to think about like, what is your desires? What are you trying to manifest? Like what's on your list, however you want to put it. And then really think about the conditions. Is it stemming from the law of attraction as we've been taught over the years in the paradigm, in all the courses and teachings and books and things that are out there? Or is it more centered in this vision in the lotus and the lily? So here we go. So law of attraction has human at the center. Lotus and the lily has divine at the center. So when I think about the chef is like, yeah, I just wanted it to be like easy. I wanted my life to be a little easier. And it's just a little easier. And for the boat, it was often a struggle when someone would make a comment that was often snarky about the size of Ryan's boat. So, just to balance his nervous system, it's nice to have access to this bigger boat so he can have the experience of what it's really like to own something like that, right? Which has been an eye-opening experience. And also to be able to use it, like for that client, make him happy and to be able to do that. So it does make it more heart-centered, that wish that we had put out there. Number 2 is how to ask is with the law of attraction. And the lotus and the lily shifts it to how to live. So we all hear things about being, like how are you being, right? So that goes more into that vibe. So instead of like asking where it may come from lack or fear, just be. I remember when I first started to, my sales rep business, I wrote about this in Life and Love Lessons, like I was just in the being of being an independent sales rep. I had very little money, starting out in very little business, but I knew it would grow. Like I knew it would grow. So I just was in the being. I lived as an independent sales rep versus asking every day, can I be an independent sales rep? When am I going to be an independent sales rep? So after that, ask for things is law of attraction based versus creating conditions. So yeah, it's kind of the same thing, right? How do you create conditions to manifest your future versus just asking? Number 4, law of attraction is ego. Lotus and lily is soul. Think about that. Law of attraction is external. Lotus and lily is internal. So very similar, but just another aspect. I love that. Law of attraction is desires. Lotus and lily is purpose. So that kind of circles back to the first one that I explained in a little more depth. Law of attraction is effort. Lotus and lily is effortless. That's a really, really good one and really, really important. So we often hear, about pushing the universe, asking all the time. I've been guilty of this. Your left brain takes over. We're humans, right? When's it going to happen? How's it going to happen? Like I had to really work on that. And that goes into that bucket. Are you putting effort into this? Are you hustling super, super hard? Are you pushing? Or is it effortless and easy? Law of attraction, control. Lotus and lily, allow. Those go hand in hand, in my opinion, with effort and effortless, which is excellent. And the last one in her chart is law of attraction is material goods, and lotus and lily is heaven on earth. I think that's been like such a big realization for me over the years, and it probably stems from my early days in retail, is that we have so much stuff. So much stuff. I have so much stuff. How do I have all this stuff? I don't even know. I had a mom who's a complete shopaholic. That took many years to work through that. And then stop that in my behavior. And I wasn't as bad as she is, but I still had those tendencies, which is way too much for this podcast. But when you think about all the stuff you have, like, do you really need it? Like, how many handbags do you need? Really? How many pairs of shoes do you need? Really? So when you're thinking about your desire list in terms of material goods, like this is really something to think about. Because they say when you realize that you're happy where you are, like you're happy, you're good, like you're grateful for what you have. And it doesn't mean that you can't desire more, but when you're grateful for what you have, then you're at peace. Like your nervous system is calm, you're at peace, you're just working, you're just being, you're creating the conditions, your soul feels good, you understand your purpose, it's effortless. Well, then all the things end up coming, right? It's just like a byproduct. And she writes about that more in one of her chapters. Let me see if I stickied it. It's chapter 26, day 26, fill your cart. Like she writes more about that, right? So it's like you understand your bigger vision and your bigger purpose, and then the things like end up like aligning and coming together. So, I mean, personally, I have so much stuff. It's crazy, right? Like look around, think about it. How much stuff do you need? Do you really need more stuff? Or do you need like things to operate and be at a different level, right? So think about those things. I'll see if I can recap this or create a picture and maybe I'll put it on my website. But again, the book, she gets like major kudos for this chart. I love it, is The Lotus and the Lily by Janet Connor. And my friend Deborah Lupien is who suggested this book. But it's really, really cool. So as you're going through your future, I'm just going to say your future, after you listen to this podcast, I really want you to think about this. Like, think about this. Are you being like super materialistic in your desires? Are you hustling really, really hard? Are you pushing? Are you asking the really bad worded questions, which is how and when? Like those are the words you're not supposed to use. Or are you just like putting it out there and doing the thing and keeping your head down and doing the work in a really good, calm, positive state? That's when the magic happens. That's when the magic happens. And if you can forget about it, like forget about your desires, like in terms of what you've asked for, that's even better. I forgot about the big boat. I forgot about the chef. Like I literally forgot about them. Like I clear my brain and I forgot about them. So it worked out. It's kind of funny. And one more nugget, and I'll put the link for this article in the show notes, is I wrote this article on Medium a couple months ago, and it's a fairy tale, but it's really based on someone who I don't really, I'm not going to say she's like a friend, but I've just been in the same circle, and I hear every month how she approaches something. So it led me to create this fairy tale to address what I've been observing, right? So again, I'll put that in there. The caveat now that I'm noticing, which is very fascinating, is she now says that she catches herself and shifts. Okay. Let's talk about that for a quick second. That's great in the beginning, right? I talk about awareness. Awareness is step one. Step one is awareness, catching yourself and shifting. But still, every time you do that, you're still opening the oven. You're still taking the lid off the pot. So the next step after that is to just be in the being, where you don't have to constantly like correct yourself. You've changed. You've embodied that change because you want to be evolving. So you can't just keep going like every month going, okay, well, I catch myself and shift. Well, that's fine in the beginning. That's part of growth. But you want to get to a place that like you don't need that anymore. You're good. You've evolved. You're good. You didn't have that mindset behavior to even begin with. So there's no catching yourself and shifting. You've moved past that. So if you've like 3 months in, let's say, I'm just going to make this up for a time construct, you're still having to catch yourself and shift on something that you're trying to adjust in your brain, then I would highly recommend doing like a deeper dive or finding some new tools or working with a coach, because that isn't long-term serving you, because you're still taking the cookies out of the oven. You're still starting and stopping, and you're still not continually letting it flow. So you're not collapsing time because you're jacking up the timeline. So anyhow, that's just like next level thinking that I wanted to share in this podcast as well. And again, I will put the link to that fairy tale. That's an article that I posted on medium.com in the show notes, as well as the information for this book. And again, please refer back to the podcast I did last week with Sienna, and then the other podcast with Deborah's books. And yeah, I hope this really helps. So I would love to hear from you. And yeah, what else do I have really quick is Beyond Basic. Every month for free, I'm going to do a mastermind workshop. So I'm going to start out with just a little Q&A to get the conversation going, but it's really to have open discussion, helpful discussion, sharing of ideas, wins, celebrations, whatever in that group, instead of just me giving more information, like fill your boots on my podcast and other things I have going on out there. So I thought I'd try that. We will give that a whirl for several months, and hopefully it will grow, because heck, take advantage of a community of information and help and bouncing ideas off of people. So that's really what I'm intending to do with that. And then also too, Supercharge Your Transformation is one of the courses that is evergreen on my website. It is $222 and it is meant to help you with some of the things that go on in your brain that often are not discussed. So it's comparison, which is going to be a topic on this week's Crush It in Sales podcast. Limiting beliefs, and confidence. So those 3 topics are huge in terms of your transformation. So if you're trying to manifest and you want the law of attraction to work for you, you have to work on the inside. You have to work on the energetics and what's going on inside your brain. So this course is on super fast speed. So you can pick up some tips and tools and ideas and start to crack through and bust up some of those things that may be holding you back. And that is why I created it. So they work hand in hand. If you like podcasts like this, then you have to also do the inner work. It is super important. Otherwise, you're not going to get very far. So I hope you like this podcast. Please reach out to me, private coaching, melinda@melindavanfleet.com. And follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Until next week, be grateful, be curious, always be learning. And you know what? Have some fun too. Thank you for listening.